everyone, and welcome to our continued coverage of the Ondo governorship election. You're welcome to our studio right here in Akure, the Ondo State capital. I'm Sean Kimaloe, and we're taking you through some of what you need to know as of now. The election is over. Polls have been closed since 2:30 p.m. officially. The results are being sorted and collated, and of what we can tell you right now is that some of those results are now being taken to local government areas and major places where these results are going to be collated. Let's give you an understanding of some of the top contenders in the race. There you see the candidate of the ZLP, Agbola Ajari, the deputy governor, casting his ballot. Let's allow you to hear from those whom you came out to vote for in this election. Beginning with the ZLP candidate Agbola Ajari, he cast his ballot today in Ondo South area of Ondo State, in the Ondo South Senatorial District. And this is what he had to say after casting his ballot.
The security arrangement is a bit compromise, which is not exactly what happened in Edo. We want to appeal to the security agents to live up to expectation and continue to be neutral, continue to say that every Nigerian vote counts. I just received a distress call from Belejo, where a senior militant in this country, Chief Jube, who is not at all a member of this environment, where he now lays siege. He did not register there at all. And he decided to go there and force voters that they should vote for APC for reason I don't know. And you see security men are there watching him. I don't know what he's doing there. And I think the whole world should call on the Federal Police to direct his men to do justice.
Well, there, the ZLP candidate, the APC candidate and governor of Ondo State, Rotimi Akeredolu, voted in his hometown. And, of course, he had some reactions to the expectations in this election and how the exercise went down in where he voted himself and his wife.
If you ask for my observation, you're asking me what I observed at my polling unit. I've not been in any other place. But I know that the shower we had has disrupted the plan. A few places there are waterlogged, but they have created area for us to maneuver. And I think we have voted in a peaceful manner.
So how confident are you that you're winning this election?
Confident about winning this election. I've always, you know me very well. I've always said to you that mine is about God, and that God, in His infinite mercy, will give me victory.
That's Rotimi Akeredolu when he cast his ballot at Ward 5, Unit 6 at Ijebu 2 in our Ondo State. Let's get you to see how the PDP candidate, Eyitayo Jegede, who cast his votes at Ward 2, Unit 9 in Akure South, he's in the city center, Akure, earlier today himself also and his wife.
Voters have been orderly, they have been peaceful, and they have conducted themselves very well. On the part of security agents, I am a little bit disappointed at some of the officers there. A little bit disappointed, because you have an officer standing directly behind the person casting his vote, and you have them giving allowance to a person who should not be there, giving signals to some people in their presence until I protested. And again, with INEC, I've had good reports about INEC, in Edo, everywhere. I had good reports and I saw good things happening until it came to my turn to vote. And then this machine suddenly malfunctioned. And I had to be delayed, and I insisted I would stay until the machine works. And my wife's card also did not pass through. And then we tested others who were behind me. Their cards did not also pass through. So all of us waited there. After the protest, exactly 10, 11 minutes thereafter, the machine started functioning again. So we give glory to God. So we give glory to God.
And you have it, the three top candidates there for you. And you've gotten their reactions to what happened today from their own point of view, from their own polling unit, and what they thought about the exercise. A few incidents and talking points for us tonight. The issue about the man who was injured around Ijomu in Akure, and whatever has happened to him today, what happened today. We're hearing some of the stories around the incident where we were covering, we heard gunshots and the man was said to have been stabbed. Also, we had issues about a boat that capsized in the riverine areas of the Ondo South local government, Central District, and we're going to be getting more updates on what has happened. So let's fill it in and give you some update right now as we know it. You perhaps are thinking, when will the result be coming in? You get to know all of that tonight. I'm being joined by, some of the biggest boys and ladies in as far as the stakeholders are concerned for this election. I'm being joined by the Commissioner of Police in Ondo State, Bolaji Salami. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Good evening.
And a member of the board of Yaga Africa, a member of the Situation Room of the Civil Society Election Situation Room, Mr. Ezen Wanwago. Thank you so much for coming today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much.
And perhaps one of the most senior officers in INEC, Professor Antonia Sembine. She is a national commissioner with INEC. Thank you so much
Thanks for coming. Having me.
Yeah. Let's begin by knowing when should our viewers be standing by to know the result, because a lot of people are wondering, when can we know the result? And some people are already tweeting at me and saying we've gone to buy fuel for our generator to be able to watch. So when should we be expecting that the result will be announced?
Well, I don't think we can say for definite now. We all know that Ondo State is quite large with varying types of terrain, including going over the seas, and all the results have to come in before we can really see. Right now, we have polling unit results have been uploaded. We have over about 75% of those unit results uploaded on the INEC results viewing portal, but nothing can happen. These have to pass through the RA collation as well as local government collation centers. We are aware, particularly in the case of Ilaje, that they have not concluded their RA collation, and they will be doing that at Igbokoda hopefully tonight, and it is doubtful that they will be able to come at all. So, but hopefully, probably by midday tomorrow, everything should be in. Okay. Plus or minus.
Okay, that's good news. From that, there are a few issues that a lot are on the minds, and I want to take it off the chest of a lot of Nigerians. We want to know, the man who was stabbed in the Ijomu area, what is the status of that man? We understand that he was taken to the hospital, but what do we know now?
It was a machete cut, and he was rushed to the hospital. I personally visited him, and he's very stable. We even talked to him. The family members were there, and he's stable.
That's good. So what happened? The gunshot that we heard, because if it was only machete cut, what about the gunshot that we heard? Because Mr. Ezenwa-Nwagwu was right on the set with me. The election had barely started. This was around 8:20 or thereabout when this happened.
We learned it, we got it that there were gunshots. But by the time we got there, we were told that those who shot ran away. And by that time, the man had been rushed to the hospital. So we moved to the hospital. I talked to him, we visited him, and he's good. He's in good health condition. And full investigation is going to the issue. We got some 2 men who are assisting us and some who recorded what really happened there. And we are going to full investigation. So by the time the result is out, we will let you know.
How many people have you arrested so far, aside that incident that has happened today? I know you have your hands full today. You've had it full since morning. So far, 100, 50, 20? How many people do you have in your net?
We are still compiling the list of arrested persons. So I cannot give the accurate data now because we are getting inputs from local governments and all over the Ondo State. So maybe very soon, by the time we have all the results coming in, we'll be able to see exactly the number of people arrested and people undergoing investigation.
So maybe I should be more specific. The incidents that happened today, apart from the man that was stabbed in Ijomu, what other things have you learned?
So far, apart from that man, there was an accident for a baby, for a boy of about 4 years that ran into one patrol vehicle. So aside that, we did not have any other thing in Akure. So we are expecting inputs from other local governments, and by the time we finish our compilation, we'll let you know the actual figure.
All right. You're like a middleman in this, because we have the police, we have INEC, and you are the one who is looking in what is happening. From your point of view, we were together in the morning. How would you assess this election? We made a comparison, and after Edo, INEC boasted that the election in Ondo will be better than Edo. Police also said what you saw in Edo was just a child's play. We will surprise you in Ondo. How have they surprised you?
Well, I'm a bit impressed. I think Professor Simbine has, they've earned the bragging right in terms of logistics, in terms of punctuality index. By the time it was 9:30, we know that a lot of the polling stations had opened and accreditation and voting had commenced. And that's a huge leap from where we were before. So, but for security, I just wish that we can test case, use Ondo for test case. People have always been arrested. People have always behaved in a way that undermine this process, but we hardly, at the end of the day, follow this through in terms of prosecution, in terms of deterrent, so that when people behave in this way, that they are clear that they are going to have to pay. And I'm happy that the CP is someone who even on the lead up to this have shown clear. But I'm encouraging the police to use. If people have been arrested, we must not drop the ball in terms of prosecution. 2019 has happened. We have no clear record of where we are in terms of prosecution of people who committed crimes during the elections. There was Kogi, there was Bayelsa. There is still no clear record that you can, whether on the net or even from the record of the police themselves, that you can say there is somebody who is
Maybe there is also a need for the public name and shaming.
No, that's
because if you don't name and shame these people,
that's what I'm saying. And then I also worry always when we hoist regime of excuses. Ondo didn't happen to us by accident. We all knew that there are coastal riverine challenges. In 2016, we had the challenge of results coming in late from these places. So what are we doing? I think we need to, the same way that we are running, we're testing out our ability to improve in different areas. We should be able to also get this capacity for result retention and management that does not keep us, it diminishes us as a people that, we cannot announce results almost 12 hours after elections. We must have a conversation about that helps us to be able to say by 10 o'clock today, people should be able to know who has won elections. Because every time, whether it's Bayelsa, whether it's Edo, there is always a regime of excuse that helps us to rationalize why we cannot do.
Why the results cannot be in. Taking a cue from what you said, I'm inside the result viewing portal for INEC, and out of the 3,009 results expected, 2,258 has been turned in. That's some good news. I'm not very smart with mathematics, and I guess we still have just about 800 and something results that are yet to come in as of now. Let's look at the conduct of INEC for a moment. Isn't why I was dragged you out, Prof. You are right on the spot right now on the conduct of election today. We were looking at how early the exercise started. From what you saw, maybe can you briefly assess INEC? Did the exercise start early enough in most of the places?
I'm charitable enough to concede that that she's earned the bragging rights as the officer in charge of this process, and I'm excited for them in terms of the ability to the innovations that have been thrown in to make sure that polls start early, and we didn't see the kind of negligence and sabotage from the vendors who normally help them and who holds them to ransom. We didn't see that. We saw, and I particularly was in Owo earlier to see the distribution of materials and e-forms, and it was interesting to see very professional INEC officials working together with security agencies to push those materials to the rack centers. Right. And if we improve on that, if we're able to consolidate the ability to make sure that things are together, maybe we would be able to do better than that.
Prof, the candidate of the PDP had problems getting accredited, yet we hear this over and over again. I remember in 2019 election, there's a presidential candidate who had problems in his ward when he wanted to vote. This card reader keeps having some itches. Why?
The card reader is a machine. It can develop issues at any point in time. But it may not be the card reader. It might be the person that is being accredited. We have explained that the PVC has contact with the card reader. Several things can happen, but the most important thing is that when it happens, we're able to respond real time, and if it's not happening in the majority of cases. In fact, in over 90% of the cases, the smart card reader performed. And where there were problems, they were quickly responded to. The truth of the matter is that a lot of people say that Edo was good. But as a responsive organization, we did sit down to review Edo. And the chairman said at some point in time that there were 18 specific lessons to learn, issues to deal with, to address as we came to Ondo. And it is, I believe, the fact that we attended to those issues that has resulted in the process that we got today, that I'm happy that one of our very credible organizations is saying that the commission did very well in the conduct of this election today. I know that there's this other second leg, okay? The collation, the tallying process, and all of that. But we learned lessons, and we try to address them this time around. And this is what I believe has paid off.
All right, let's take a breather. When we come back, I would like to know whether the Z-Pad worked this time around. It didn't work according to plan in Nasarawa. You tried something else in Edo. And also, we understand that at some point, the smart car readers will come to a termination point in its usage from your plan. We get to know all of that and also hear from the Commissioner of Police as regarding security for this election. The election is not yet over because election is a process, and until the winner is announced, the election is still on. So you are on special edition of Politics Today, looking at a continued coverage of the Ondo governorship election. We'll be right back, everyone. Stay with us.
The air patrol is on, and we are doing it to ensure that the security is extremely in control. Two, we've succeeded in arresting 2 people that were here. They caused some trouble. Somebody was stabbed. The person is in a hospital, but we've arrested the people concerned. And we are moving more. We are moving out now, out of Akure, to effect more arrests. I'm assuring the public that we'll do our very best. I'm assuring them, and that's why I'm on patrol. We'll do our very best to make sure that this election is hitch-free. Thank you.
Basically, from what we have heard, a few issues of violence so far, apart from the one that happened here earlier, which you're referring to, which other ones can we talk about?
Sometimes we get some reports, but when I visited the areas and I realized that they were just an ordinary rumor. And some people raise alarm. You get there, you don't see anything. So I'm on the ground and I'm moving around. If I see, I will inform you. But all I can assure you now that I'm in Akure, we've not had a serious one.
Stay connected to the world with Channels TV Podcast and get all the trending stories. Simply log on to channelstv.com. Click on podcast, select the program of your choice, and listen. Our podcast is available on Apple, Google, and Spotify. Tap the expertise you trust. Touch the stories that touch you. Anytime, anywhere.
From the information I got, that some men were arrested. And on that basis, I believe very soon the men will be taken to our office here for further investigation.
There is an incident that INEC has said a boat that capsized in the River Rhine area and yesterday night. What can you tell us about that? Just
from what we got and what we saw, your media organization was able to do a lot by making people realize. It came into light on time, telling people this is what has happened. And we thank God because among those who that incident happened to, nobody died. We were told they were all rescued. So I think we give glory to God. That's a good one.
Thank you so much, everyone, and welcome back to our Akure studio, where we're keeping tabs on the situation as regarding the Ondo governorship election. We still have the Commissioner of Police here, Balaji Salami, and we've since been joined by Shamsuddin Yusuf, Senior Program Officer at the CDD. Thank you so much, Shamsuddin, for joining us. And Professor Antonia Simbine is here with us. Before I go to the CP, this Z-Pad, the tablet you introduced for the Nasarawa by-election, you used it again in, this is what you have used in the collation of the results that we have 2,258 so far in the portal. It was supposed to be for accreditation partly, supposed to support the smart card reader. Did you improve in the usage at all?
We are not talking about improving in the usage of the Z-Pad for accreditation for this election. Neither was it used for Edo. the zip pad was strictly used. We encountered issues in Nasarawa, okay? And we decided that we need to improve on it going forward before we continue to use it. So for Edo as well as for Ondo, we only used it for the results, the uploading of results. And that's where you have the 2,200 polling units results.
I know you're being careful with the use of language. You don't want to say transmission. You don't want to say server. You don't want to say...
You got it.
Because these are language that are really giving us some technical problems. So,
yes.
I know the smart card reader, there is a plan, the duration for usage. When is that?
Ordinarily, it should be anything from 10 years, okay? But until we have an alternative, we're going to continue to use the smart card.
I know we started using it from 2011.
Yes. However, the commission is generally working, you might have read or reported on the looking at options for electronic voting. And we have started interfacing, trying to discuss and see what we can bring aboard, also in anticipation of amendments to the legal framework. But until that is done, and until we really get organized on what we want in terms of what kind of machine, we will continue to use the smart card reader.
Let me quickly, there is yet one very touchy issue which concerns the INEC and the police, and it has to do with the issue of adherence to COVID-19 protocols. This time around, a lot of people said it was a failure, it was poor. Largely, you found people try in the beginning, but at the end of the day, clusters are being made in a disease that a lot of people dreaded. Were your men intimidated or were they inhibited from implementing the protocols by saying no face mask, no voting, and the issue of the social distancing? What happened to the CP?
No, in all places we visited, it was enforced, and they arranged the voters in a way that they did not cluster. So every polling unit that we visited, they called them maybe in 4s, in 6, and they arranged them staggered. So, and the use of face mask.
Maybe because they saw you, that the CP is around.
No, we met them like that, and in all the areas visited by the team of the DIG.
I mean, do you think it could have been done better?
We can always improve, but we have, to some extent, improved of what we did in Edo State concerning the use of face mask. It was totally enforced in places that we visited.
Mr. Yusuf, you are an election observer. What did you observe?
Well, I think, like you said, the Commissioner of Police, they are scared. Immediately they cited him, and they felt like we have to start complying to the COVID-19 protocol. I think generally the level of compliance is very, very poor. And we also then need to look beyond INEC. You know, sometimes I just feel like, oh, we have COVID-19 protocol policy to guide the conduct of election in the country, but we also need to significantly look on the part of the citizens, the extent at which they even believe in the existence of COVID-19 and the need for them to start complying. Because INEC can only formulate policies, which will then provide guidance on how things should be conducted at the polling unit. But the level of compliance needs to do more with the citizens, and for them to even trust in the protocol put in place by the NCDC and INEC, ensuring that we curtail the widespread of COVID-19 in polling units. So what we have observed generally is very poor. And sometimes you see that the compliance is totally reduced to the use of face masks. And even the two-tier system becomes something very difficult to implement at the polling unit. And you also see that at the early stage of the accreditation and voting, it started raining, and people had to cluster in different places. We even saw pictures of voters, fully packed under a canopy. And early you see some of them using face masks. And you raise an important point about security personnel as well as INEC ad hoc officials probably being scared about the response from the party agents or supporters at the polling unit. So they had to comply with the way people wanted things to be conducted at the polling unit. So I think the compliance conversation should be taken beyond INEC or security personnel, but also extended to citizens, because the level of awareness, there should be general acceptance that this thing exists, and for them to start complying to curtail the spread. At that point, we then start seeing, recording high level of compliance. The other issue, which is quite fundamental, is the issue of, definitely, I will applaud INEC and the security personnel for improving in terms of, responding to some of the issues that are arising at polling unit. INEC is, as in, like 6:30, I saw polling stations that we saw INEC ad hoc officials already arrived, and it was really amazing. But the thing is also that we've also seen some of the presiding officers not having a depth understanding of what it takes. You see, even some of them don't even understand that the use of phone to take picture is not only allowed, is only not allowed at voting cubicle. But some of the feedback we got from some of our observers is that PO announced that nobody should use phones in polling unit, which I spoke to one of them to say that you are misinterpreting what INEC actually, so the level of understanding is quite low, which I also think that perhaps the training and retraining issue should be taken seriously. The second point is on the part of security agencies, which I think they need to up their game in terms of response rates. If there are prevalence of vote buying at the polling unit, and even if
there were vote buying today,
significant.
How did that happen? How was that happening?
The thing is that the entire planning probably would have happened since yesterday. We've seen tickets being shared for people who have voted. And the other part is also about the placement of voting cubicle. At times, we don't put the entire blame at the doorstep of INEC, mainly because the infrastructural deficit is also something we need to look at. There are PUs that we ought to have think about changing the PUs. We saw people getting to the PU location and it's filled with bush. They have to start, cutting it down. That also slow down the commencement of voting at a particular polling unit. And you also see that the thinking about how can I place voting cubicle to protect the secrecy of vote became an important issue. And if that is not addressed, it also gives a venue for vote buyers to really know who you voted for and buy your vote.
Yeah. Let me allow Prof to first and foremost, the first one is the issue of the COVID-19. What happened this time around again, a major, for me, some people might describe it as a major disaster because largely, like Shamsuddin was describing, something went wrong and the compliance level was low. What happened?
I agree with you that compliance was really low. But when you get into Ondo State, from the time we started, let's say immediately after Edo, we started coming here, you can see that people are not in compliance. In fact, they had to make a lot of effort to come to the polling unit with their chin masks. Let me not call it face mask, because they had it. It's
consistently lower.
Yes,
to the
they
chin.
know that it's supposed to be worn to the polling unit, but it's they have it on their chin. There wasn't much of social distancing, except when you are getting to the inner queue. In the inner queue where reasonably our staff were able to ensure that that queue existed. There was distance. There was the taking of the temperature, the use of the hand sanitizer, the cleaning of the smart card reader, but social distance and the use of the face mask was very low. For me, I covered the northern senatorial districts. I went to all the 6 local governments there today, and this is what I saw. People were not in compliance at all.
That's a big lesson for INEC, isn't
That
it?
is a big lesson,
you
but
have
there's
several
a
elections.
There's a limit
Okay.
to which INEC can go. I mean, to be one of the first, probably the first agency in this country to bring up a policy on COVID-19 in the context of our work, to insist that certain things will not be done, to put policies and programs, issues, to make changes, even in our processes, in transportation and so on and so forth, in the training of our staff, and in the provision of the NPIs, non-pharmaceutical facilities that were supposed, we did provide with the support of the NCDC. So if we have gone this far and still the citizens are not in compliance, I think there's really not much that we can do.
I think there is much that can be done. I mean, I beg to differ.
Okay.
And this is the reason. Your aim and goal, I have a feeling, is to ensure that people are safe in terms of their health.
Yes.
But if they are not complying to it, for example, when there was a lockdown, in some countries, we saw in India that they were literally beating people to stay indoors. I mean, if you've made a policy, no face mask, no voting, and people are still turning up and they have been allowed to vote, then I think we can be creative. I don't know.
People are not allowed to vote without the face mask.
Where you visited?
Yes.
Maybe they saw you again, like the same way they saw the CP.
Sheon, when they have the chain mask, as they approach to vote, they put it on.
Some didn't even come at all with their face coverings.
That is
we saw
true.
them.
That is true.
Yeah.
That
so
is
I mean,
also true.
I'm not asking that people should be disenfranchised. I'm just saying that the main goal, the bigger picture, is that people should be safe. They shouldn't, because of voting, should catch or contact coronavirus. So I'm thinking now, you have another 2 weeks before your next set of election. And it can be creative. God will give you the wisdom. So that's my point, isn't it? I don't know if you understand what I mean, Prof.
I get you.
Okay.
I get you.
Let me ask, there was an issue of fake news also today. I'm very sure you are aware. There was a very big fake news. And I don't know why people do, the politicians are, wherever these people are, why they do what they do. Channels Television has sent a disclaimer on a video that of a live coverage on Channels Television 2 years ago, which was now being doctored as though it happened today, showing some persons in the state scampering according to the doctor and the way and manner in which they wanted to convey. So Channels Television has disclaimed this, that this is not a recent video or anything that happened today. It was in fact an incident at the Delta PDP primary in 2018. So, I mean, it's sad, isn't it? You heard this, I'm very sure, that the wife of a candidate was being shot.
No, the video showed that she was beaten and maybe wounded, not shot. But we later found out that everything was false. Everything was. And it was done in Edo too, that most of the news, sensational ones that you will get from, only God knows their motive of doing that. But we always cross-check, call the area, the relevant area, and discover that they are false, and we discard with them.
The curfew ends at 6 p.m., isn't it?
It's 12 midnight to 6 p.m.
So it has ended about an hour and a half ago, and so people can actually come out and go about their businesses.
Yes, yes.
Because we understand that a lot of people who are trying to pass through Ondo State were being stopped by the military. So with the military still, because as we were driving here, we saw military checkpoints. They're still there in the city.
The closing of entry and the entry points, we did it in 3 layers. The military at the outer layer, the PMF in the inner layer, and the men of civil defense. I bet by now, all of them must have been removed because the curfew is over.
So probably probably the safest place in Ondo now is INEC office.
How?
Because that's the usual practice. We've seen a lot of officers there because of obvious reason.
No, we are not allowing too much of influx officers into our INEC office because as at now, I think the coalition should be at the local government level. So before that of INEC office will start, it will take time. So
how secured are these local government areas?
We have secured everywhere.
Our major headache will be the River Rhine. For every time, for the last 3 election cycles that I've covered election in Ondo State, over the last 16 years or so, there has always been that problem of waiting for results from the River Rhine areas.
We have devised a means that by the time we go into it properly, it will not be like that, like how it has been in the future. But there is improvements that people will see very soon.
So, I mean, you are assuring us that things will change today.
Very well.
Are we likely, because she said maybe about noon tomorrow, from your own point of view?
Possibly, we will do that.
Okay. Any final word from you, Prof?
Well, I'd just like to say that the Commission is welcoming of criticism that will help it to improve its processes. And we have reached where we are today as a result of the efforts of essentially the civil society organizations that have always kept us on our toes. But we would also want them to give the necessary bashing to other areas where they belong when they happen.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say that as in Edo and now in Ondo, we are deeply appreciative of the work of the security agencies.
All right, just because it's a pleasure having you, Prof. Hardly would you get Prof, but when we get Prof to come out on this day like this, we really appreciate it. Just in a few seconds, if you can tell us, the Z-pad was a turnaround for INEC, isn't it?
Yes. It's, you know, there are usually issues when you finish collation at RA or local government level, and you are heading probably to the state. But at any point of collation, you can hear that voting has gone smoothly, but when it comes to transporting the results, there are always issues.
Yeah.
But now the Z-pad has cut into
mitigated that.
In that you can just take a snapshot and you are able to upload at your RA, and it's there for everybody to see.
Professor Antonia Simbine, National Commissioner for INEC, Mr. Bolaji Salami, Commissioner of Police of Ondo State. Thank you so much, Prof. and CP. I'll detain and retain you, like I always say, Mr. Yusuf, but we'll take a break, and when we come back, we get yet another perspective into what happened today, and we look forward to the results. They said maybe at about noon tomorrow. Stay with Channels Television for all you need to know. We'll be right back.
It was a shock, and I was a little bit upset, and I said, was it not same channels that interviewed my husband? I was standing beside him. How could that possibly be? And immediately we put a call to the GM, and I said, how could your channel be spreading this kind of falsehood? But immediately, they didn't waste time. I must also appreciate them for doing that. They put up a disclaimer and stamped a big fake stamp on that video. So, well, politics in Nigeria, I'm hopeful that in due course we'll do things much in a civilized manner. These are sore losers trying to create confusion all over the place, but they aren't going to succeed. Feelers from the field indicate that people are exercising their franchise in a peaceful manner, in a peaceful atmosphere. So, but with this interview, I want to believe that we will succeed in debunking the lies, because this will also go viral as the one earlier posted on social media. So I appreciate Channel for swinging into action to put up a disclaimer to the falsehood.
He's alive, he's in stable condition. I visited him at the police hospital where he's been treated. The victim, who is a registered voter at the polling unit where he was attacked, said that he was attacked by men that he could identify, and he has given us the details of those people who attacked him. Investigation is ongoing. As soon as we conclude our investigation, we'll be able to determine what actually transpired. But what we have for now is that the man was attacked by people he could identify, and we are actually on their trial now to bring them to book. Reports from all over the state is that generally the election has been peaceful. The pockets of incidents we had, the police have been able to curtail it, and we're actually on top of the situation.
Thank you for staying with us, everyone, on the continued coverage of the Ondo governorship election. We are at that point that we are anticipating when the results will be announced. You heard the National Commissioner of INEC who said, look, it might be about noon tomorrow. That may be good news for those who have experienced long hours of waiting for results to coming. Let's get back to the conversation. I have yet new faces that have joined the party. I have Aderemi Okuntoye, is a lead of the Nigerian Bar Association Election Monitoring Group. Thank you so much, Aderemi, for coming tonight. We were together earlier today, and of course, Shamsuddin Yusuf of the CDD has been with us, and now we've been joined also by the ACG operation of Nigeria Civil Defense Corps, Mr. Modu Bunun. Thank you so much for coming today. Let me begin with you, Mr. Bunun. Critical national asset, that is the primary responsibility of the NSCDC. How many of those were at risk, and how many threats were you able to resolve today?
You see, almost all of them are at risk. When an occasion like this happens, the bandits and saboteurs are normally focusing their attention on that. That is why we are doing two types of deployment. One, we have to reinforce those that are on the field to protect the critical infrastructures, and then also for the election duty.
So we understand that there were attempts by vandals today. How many people are in your custody? How many, what is the nature of that offense?
The report we received that 5 people were arrested trying to vandalize some properties around Ileje area, but we are yet to receive the full report.
But they are in your custody right now?
They are in our custody.
They have been profiled and investigated?
Yes, we are investigating now.
What about the boat that capsized? Were you involved in determining the rescue?
We are not involved. It is the Navy that normally rescued according to the report we received. So our men are not part of that.
Okay. Let me go to Mr. Aderemi. From what you have heard so far, definitely from the last time we spoke on the field, a lot of things have changed. Has anything for you significantly changed?
I believe that
narrative that has changed. We spoke on the field earlier, must be the issue of widespread violence, that has been, touted in certain quarters. To be honest with you, we always take the position that unless certain events are confirmed and double-checked, we don't go to town with it. We don't accept it as a narrative. And from the time we met on the field and this period, we have discovered that the number of events that we can actually call violence, it's not more than 2 or 3, in the entire election. So I think that narrative of violence is something that needs to be checked. And we saw something today, with respect to the fake news that was all over the place earlier in the day. And that's part of the narrative. Some people just sit back somewhere and try to control the narrative that there is actual violence. But that's number one. Number two, another thing that has changed for us that we heard earlier today is the issue of vote buying. And after we sat back about 2 hours, we spent 2 hours between 4 p.m. and 6 p.m. We spoke to all our colleagues throughout the state, and we tried to find out from them what exactly transpired. Did they cite issues of vote buying? And we realized that, the evidence, the real evidence of suggesting that we cited and we heard, they're 2 different things. So those are the narratives, those are the issues that have changed in the last 2-3 hours.
So you didn't think, or you didn't see, or you didn't find out that there was actually vote buying in this election?
We heard, but
you can verify.
We can verify.
Mr. Yusuf, your report said there were issues of vote buying.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think one thing that we need to understand in elections in Nigeria over the years, and I think since 2015, we could say that politicians are becoming more innovative in winning the election. And 3 major strategies have been deployed so far. First is fake news and disinformation. Second is vote buying. While the third point is political thuggery and violence.
Sorry, Mr. Yusuf. Let's take a quick break and resolve some issues, and we'll be right back. Stay with us. We'll be right back, everyone. So much, everyone, and welcome back to the conversation. From what we can see on the portal, where the election result portal, Akoko Southwest results have all come in. All the 168 polling units have all come in, and we're still expecting just about 500 or so results to coming out of the 3,009 wards in Ondo State. So we're talking about vote buying. Just to wrap up the conversation now, you said there was vote buying. Were you able to verify all of this?
Yeah, definitely. Some of our brothers in the field reported different strategies adopted by party agents. I mean, you know that even party agents are not the one who even they're like the front person at the polling unit. Other persons are actually employed to do that stuff for them. One is that we observed that there were like sharing of tickets. You cast your vote. Immediately that is confirmed, you'll be issued a particular ticket. And the ticket, you just move to the redemption area. Point where that will be redeemed. So I think a lot of observers need to understand these strategies at which politicians are being, are employing to ensure that this.
Let me get, were you able to experience or arrest any situation of vote buying?
We have not received any report on that.
But for you at the NSCDC, would you say this was an improvement to Edo election?
Yes, certainly yes.
What do you think?
People were expecting that something different will happen here, but thank God nothing happens. The election is largely peaceful. But we don't know what will happen from now, maybe till tomorrow.
Okay.
But for now.
For you, Mr., as we wrap up now, it's a success for Nigeria, isn't it, it's a plus for us as a people that we're beginning to have a process that people would describe as somewhat credible. But we still have a long way to go for you.
We do. We have a long way to go. And the long way that we have to go is a shift. We just need to be courageous. The INEC, the people, we need to be courageous. The lawmakers, we need to exercise some level of boldness in decision making. Now, today, we have a situation where you can read from the INEC portal, online portal, a number of election results coming in from the polling units. That leap that we need is for us to get to a situation where that result you can see today would be the final determining factor, where INEC will sit down within an hour from this moment and say to us that from our portal, this is the results we have, this is the final announcement and that's it.
Aderemi Oguntoye, the lead of the NBA Election Monitoring Group, thank you so much for coming. And our friend at CDD, Shamsuddin Yusuf, thank you so much indeed for coming. The head of operation, ACG operations at the NSCDC, Mr. Modu Bunod, thank you so much indeed for coming. It's a long night for some of us. We'll be waiting and reporting, covering what will happen from now up until tomorrow when the results will be announced. It's been your Ondo governorship election coverage from Channels Television, your home for the news. Stay with us as we continue giving you the information that you need until the moment when the winner is announced. I'm Seun Kimale, and it's bye from all of us here in Atarakura studio. Bye-bye.